So hi everybody, for this tutorial I am going to be showing you how to make a slip knot and a foundation chain, and I am going to be using this lovely My Boshi yarn, which is a chunky weight or a worsted weight 4 in the US, and this yarn is 70% polyacrylic and 30% merino, which gives us that really soft feel. It's quite a chunky yarn, but I wanted to show you in a chunky yarn to make it easier for you guys to see. I am then using a clover crochet hook in a 5mm, and I have my scissors there as well. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do, we are going to make a slip knot. Now there are lots of different ways to make a slip knot. Everybody's got their own way of doing it. I like to cross mine over, and then with the shorter tail underneath, a little bit like a kind of a pretzel shape. You put your finger on the tail and pull up, and that's your slip knot. Okay, so if I just show you that again, so we are yarning over, then with the shorter tail underneath we are pulling up the center yarn. Now the reason we do it this way is because when we put the slip knot onto our hook, it gives us that really kind of nice adjustable feel, whereas if you just did a knot it would come undone very quickly, but with this you can see that you can actually adjust it. So if your tail's a little bit long, just give it a snip, because you don't want that getting in the way. Right, so we have our loop on our hook. Now the loop that we have on our hook is called the working loop, and it doesn't actually count as a stitch. Okay, so what we want to do with our working yarn is the yarn that comes from the ball. You want to take it with your left hand, or your right hand if you're left-handed, and you want to wrap it around from the back, and if you just pull down slightly on your loop, you will find that that pulls through really nicely. So you're taking your yarn from the back and you're pulling through, taking your yarn from the back and pulling through, taking your yarn from the back and pulling through. Now it's worth mentioning that if you pull through just slightly at the top here, it gives you a tiny little space there, so when you do pull through, it should go through really comfortably. I've noticed that lots of people pull their chain at the end and crochet that way, but what you then get is the fact that this chain here pulls very tight, making it very difficult to work your stitches into. So if you hold it near the top, it just gives you lots more control. So we're yarning over and pulling through, yarning over and pulling through, yarning over and pulling through. Now I'm only going to do a few of these, but I really would suggest having a good practice with this, because like I just said, you know, all of your stitches will go into this, so it's important that you have a really neat chain and a straight chain, otherwise you will struggle to fit your stitches in. You can see on the front there that we have our V's. These are the stitches going down, and on the back we have bumps, and that's why we call this a chain. So if you notice also, I've got my yarn kind of between my fingers. I mean, however you hold your yarn is entirely up to you, and it's quite a personal thing. What works for one person may not necessarily work for another, but I find that I can control my tension by holding my yarn between my fingers. So we're yarning over and pulling through, yarning over and pulling through, yarning over, pulling through, yarning over and pulling through. And you can see all the time that I'm holding the top of that chain to control my tension and to keep my chain straight. Okay, so we're yarning over and pulling through, yarning over and pulling through, and let the hook do the work for you. If you watch when I yarn over, I'm angling my hook down to pull it through the chain. So we're yarning over and angling the hook down to pull it through the chain, yarning over, angling the hook down to pull it through the chain. Okay, So that's how we make a chain. Now, to fasten this chain off, we would simply cut, and then just as if we're making another chain, we would yarn over and pull through, but this time we would just keep pulling up, and put your hook down and just pull that tightly. So there we have our first chain. Obviously I've kept this video short, but do practice. It really is worth getting this bit right. You know, you can make lovely little kind of friendship bracelets with these as well. They do look really cute. So that's your chain, and in the next video we'll be looking at single crochets. Thank you guys, see you soon, bye bye.